How's it going, people? Welcome to the YouTube channel. Back again today with another video. This is just another short little story speaking about some of my experiences, some of my past and current experiences of being a police officer in the UK. Today's story is about an incident that I had recently where it's like a young guy, probably at my age, and he tried to stab his mum with a knife. So it's a domestic incident, like majority of the jobs that I deal with are, and we're called to it early in the morning on a weekday. So this was, I think it was like last week, but it was early in the morning on a weekday. The kind of time that you're not expecting to hear, oh yeah, someone's trying to stab their mum with a knife. But I suppose, when are you expecting that? Either way, we get called there in the morning. I started my shift at 7 in the morning. I think we got called there around 9. So we get there about 9:30, and we go inside the address. I believe the guy's sister let us in. And when we get in there, I look at this dude on the sofa to my left inside the living room, and I see that he's there topless on the sofa. He had a towel covering his, like, covering the lower part of his body, and I'm not sure if he had any pants on underneath. I can't remember now. So I'm there speaking to the guy. Of course, I've got my body cam turned on, and I've got my taser in my hand by my side, because if this guy's willing to stab his mum, I've got no idea what he's going to do to me when I walk through the door. So I walk in there and I see that he's sitting down. So straight away I put my taser back away. Boom. However, the only reason why I've done that is because I can see this dude's hands. He sat down, I can see his hands. I've put my taser away, and I've gone to try and get as close to him as possible so I could get control of his arms, so that even if he did go and try to grab a knife, I've got control over him. So very quickly, I explained to him, you are going to be put under arrest. So I stand him up away from the sofa, so he doesn't have immediate access to anything what he might have hidden inside the sofa. So now I know he hasn't got his hands on a knife anymore, happy days. But to his left, and which is my right, the kitchen's there, which obviously everyone knows kitchen's got more knives in. And his mum's in the kitchen, she's crying, she's upset. His dad's sitting on the sofa behind me, and he's sitting there, and you look at his eyes, his pupils are dilated. He keeps gritting his teeth, and he's hot and bothered and flustered, and he keeps rocking his body around. So I'm quite convinced this dude's high on cocaine, like his mum said. He won't admit to us that he's had any cocaine, but I kind of see where this is going. I've seen people high on cocaine before. I'm sure a lot of you guys have as well. So what this guy does is he agrees to stand up, and he goes from being upset to agitated. So he goes through one of these agitated periods, and he's saying, I'm not going anywhere. You can put one handcuff on me and that's it. And I'm thinking to myself, let's be honest, mate. You've been arrested before. You know how it works. There's no such thing as just putting one handcuff on. You get both or none. However, I'm happy to I'm happy to get anything. So I'm like, yeah, cool. We'll put one handcuff on for now, knowing in about 5 seconds both of them are going to be on. So we stand him up. Yeah, sure, mate. Yeah, we'll just put one on for now. Put it on. As soon as I put that handcuff on, he tries to barge into me and push into the kitchen to where his mum is. And you see this look of rage in his eyes. So straight away he's like, screaming, trying to grab his mum. His mum runs to the opposite side of the room, and he runs directly to where the knives are inside the kitchen, because you can see them on the worktop. You've got some knives which are next to where the dishes are. So he's ran over there to try and get to that area of the house. So I've grabbed him and I've pulled him away from the area to the other side of the room. Straight away he throws a punch, which I block. I throw a punch back, and I can't remember, I think I hit him once with a punch. And then we start wrestling, and my colleagues join in as well. So everyone grabs him. We all end up going into a shelf and knocking a shelf off inside the kitchen and falling onto the ground. This guy, his eyes are going everywhere, and he's in a rage. He's grabbing me as hard as he can. And on my vest I've got my taser, and I've got my baton next to it there. So my a baton, like a metal stick for smacking people. I haven't used any of these things at the moment. I understand this guy's high, but I'm trying to use the lowest level of force as possible. I would rather wrestle with him and punch him once than taser him if he's high on cocaine and potentially cause him any further harm, or to baton him at this time. However, you've got to keep risk assessing things as you go. So even though that's how I'm feeling at the moment, I'm always aware that might change. He might get agitated to a point that I can get some distance and then use my taser. He might start to calm down, and then that might be too far. So I'm thinking these things. But either way, we've just banged into this shelf, knocked the shelf off, and everything on the shelf onto the floor. Right next to me lands a metal lump hammer. So it's a little not cast iron, a little iron metal, fully metal hammer lands directly next to us. So both of us immediately, when we hear this bang, we both look at the hammer. What does he do? Immediately he goes to grab the hammer. So as you can imagine, we're in this very narrow galley kitchen, so it's very narrow and thin. I'm on top of him. His mum's standing over his shoulder to the back, to behind him, screaming, telling him to get off me because he's grabbing me. His other hand is going to reach for this hammer, which is to his right and my left. I've gone to grab for the hammer at the same time, try and move it out of the way. And my colleagues are trying to get involved in the situation behind me, but there's nothing they can really do because the kitchen is so narrow. So anyway, I managed to grab the hammer before him. And for a few seconds, I'm thinking to myself, the hammer's starting to slip out of my hand. And I'm thinking, this is going to be a really bad day. If this guy manages to get grip of that hammer and smack me in the face, as you can imagine, that is not how I wanted to spend a Monday, Tuesday afternoon, whatever day it was. Anyway, I managed to pry the hammer off him and I throw it across the, well, I kind of slide it across the floor. He's still trying to grab for my taser and grab for my baton. But I've managed to kind of, at this point, my colleagues have managed to try and pull his hands off me. And I've explained to him very clearly on camera what he needs to do is let go of me right now before he escalates the situation. And his mum's there shouting, taser him, taser him, taser him. And I'm thinking to myself, first of all, if I had enough distance, I probably would taser him at this time. He's trying to grab my weapons. He's just tried to grab a hammer off the floor. You've just tried to stab your mum. You've continued to be aggressive and you're not listening to any verbal commands. I've tried to build rapport with you and be polite to you. That hasn't worked. You are going to get tasered this time, but I'm too close to him. A taser is only effective after a certain distance so the prongs can get enough spread. So I keep speaking to him, I keep explaining. I say, look at me, look into my eyes. What you're going to do is you're going to let go of me right now because you're going to make the situation worse. And I've tried to build rapport with him and let him know, try and speak to him, even though it's hard. I wanted to let him know that he needs to start taking accountability for his actions and calming the heck down, right? Meanwhile I'm doing this, my colleague manages to get the other handcuff on him. Sweet. We pick him up, we take him through the living room and we take him through the kitchen into the living room and we sit him down on the sofa. He starts to kick off again. He starts to try and fight and kick, and I think at one point he calls me a nigger or something like that. I'm like, here we go again. But anyway, so I grab him, we pull him outside, boom, and because he's pulling away and trying to run off, I end up getting him inside a headlock at one point, so I'm sat with him in a headlock. All of a sudden my partner comes up to me and knocks me on the shoulder, taps me on the shoulder. Apparently he's speaking to my sergeant and been updating him on the situation, which is a very good thing to do. Our sergeant said he's got an ambulance on the way because he thinks that this guy has got excited delirium. So if you guys know what excited delirium is, it is when someone is in an excited state, in this case due to drug use or the effects of drug use, and it can make them aggressive, unpredictable. It can make them act erratically, and a good way of finding out someone, if this is happening to someone other than the other things that I mentioned, is they'll start stripping off their clothes because they'll be too hot. As soon as they said that, everything made sense. The reason why he was naked is because he pulled all his clothes off because he was getting too hot. He was getting too hot because he was in excited delirium. He was in excited delirium because he had had loads of cocaine, way too much cocaine, right? And it's not completely the fact that this guy was out of his mind. Speaking to his family, he had had plenty of incidents before when he hadn't had cocaine, and he had aggressively taken out his frustration on his family. It's just today it was worse because he had the cocaine. So, yeah, he had still done some stuff which were wrong, regardless of the cocaine. So we're out there, and I've gone from having him in a headlock and trying to wrestle with him, because I'm there wrestling by myself. My colleagues are, because everything's happening so quick, my colleagues are shambling around trying to help, but it's just me and him for majority of this thing. I'm there with him in a headlock. I hear my colleague say excited delirium. My other colleague, who doesn't hear what's going on, tries to pepper spray him and pepper sprays me in the eye instead. So I'm there blind, trying to think about what to do next. So I adjust the headlock that I've got this guy in, and literally I just start stroking his head like he's a baby, and I'm like, okay mate, calm down, it's all right, we're here to look after you. And straight away, because they said that, I was thinking, I know how serious excited delirium is. This guy could die. I need to, even if it's putting myself in more danger, which I was, I'm going to start stroking his head and trying to make him calm down. His mum says to me, do I want some water? Because you can see I've been pepper sprayed. And I'm like, no, get him some water. Get your son some water because he needs to start to cool down right now. We get an ambulance. We bring him to hospital. He's still acting really erratic and really crazy, but eventually manages to calm down and things get better. I think he got charged. I think he pled guilty to certain offences and was charged with some stuff. Obviously, recovered a knife. He had tried to attack his family with a knife, and his dad had been a hero and grabbed the knife off him. But his son was attacking him with such force during the time where his dad pulled the knife off him. He managed to break the kitchen knife, so his kid was really on a mad one at the time. But we managed to resolve it without anyone getting hurt. But that's one thing, what we get taught about in training is something called excited delirium, and it is quite serious. If we did taser him, it could have caused him to have a heart attack and die. It could have caused a lot of unforeseen things. But that's just, that the only reason why that situation worked out so well is because myself and my colleagues were very, very willing from the beginning to try and calm this situation down. But even more than that, it's because our sergeant, who wasn't in the situation, could read the signs. Because it's like, you know, when you've got an artist who's working on something, it's hard for them to see what needs to be done when you're so close to something. I know I've completely messed up that metaphor, but hopefully you guys know what I mean. Like, when you're so close to something, it's hard to see what you're dealing with there. And put yourself in that situation. You're dealing with a guy who's tried to stab his mum. You turn up there, you've been extremely polite to him. I'm not messing around, I've done my best to be polite to him. And he runs into the kitchen to grab another knife. Then he swings a punch at you. So you end up defending yourself, you obviously punch him back. You fall onto the floor, a hammer falls next to him. Then he tries to pick up the hammer to hit you with. Yeah? A lot of you people there are thinking, this is the type of time that I'm gonna need to taser this person or start beating him with a baton. But this is the type of pressure that police officers are under. And this isn't saying, oh, I feel sorry for us. I'm just being honest with you guys. If I did do what a lot of you guys would do, and even his mum and dad and his sister were shouting taser him, if I did push him away and taser him, based on the information what I had at the time, which was I should taser this guy, he probably would have had a heart attack and died. And when we got to hospital, they said, actually, he's at dangerous levels, so I had to give him immediate treatment. And everyone in the media would be saying, this would be the headline: police officer tasers young man in his home and kills him. That's what they would have said. They wouldn't mention any of the stuff that happened before. They wouldn't have mentioned how I was feeling. Because when he was throwing punches at me, I've done boxing and stuff. I wasn't that intimidated by that. He threw a punch, blocked it. I threw a punch back, and it was one punch. He threw one punch at me. He looked like he was going to throw another one. I countered, I threw a quick punch at him, boom. Usually, if you do that type of stuff to someone, people aren't going to keep trying to fight you. Do you know what I mean? That wasn't the case. But I wasn't intimidated by that. But when he picked up a hammer and was trying to grab it to swing it at my face, yes, I felt intimidated. Yes, I felt scared. Yes, I want to go home to my kids. I don't want to have my head caved in. I don't want brain damage. Because a lot of people would say, oh, well, to protect him, you should just take that hit on the head. To those people, you must be smoking something special, because that's not what I'm trying to do. And if you guys get attacked, that's probably not what you would do either. You know what I mean? And then after that, he's trying to pull out my baton. He's trying to pull out my taser. A lot of you guys would start to use more force, but we didn't. We tried to calm it down. We went outside and he tries to run away. After the aggression that he's had, he's trying to run away. He's throwing his arms around, trying to push us away. I've grabbed him, I've took him to the ground, I've put him in a headlock. And a lot of people want to ban headlocks, but think about my options in that situation. Do I let him run off when he's in this excited state and then attack someone else? Do I let him try and hit us, even though he's got handcuffs on, metal handcuffs? He's trying to attack us and hit us with those handcuffs. Do I let him do that? Do I let him kick us? Do I let him attack us? Do I let him run back in the house and fight his mum? Or do I just or do we just stand around him and continue to get assaulted, is my point? Or one of us can take him to the ground. I've done fighting before. I know how to put someone in a headlock without hurting them. I wasn't putting any pressure on his neck, really, just pinning him to the ground and wrapping my legs around him. Or do I do that? This is just a quick story, but just to also make people think about how you would act in the same situation. What would you have done in that situation? And a lot of people are going to start capping and say, oh no, what I would have done is I would have spoke to him super smooth and he would have done what I said. If I could show you my body cam, I would show you, and it would show you me speaking to him super smooth, and then it would show him running into the kitchen, then him attacking us, and then etc, and you would be saying, I would taser that guy. But if I did tase him, he would have died, right? So it's just something for you guys to think about, man. Police officers get dragged a lot. We've done a lot of stuff which is messed up, and yeah, the officers need to be condemned for what they've done. I'm not denying that. I didn't join this job to stick up for bad officers. But what I'm trying to say is, I wouldn't say I'm a good person. I'm just a person, you know what I mean? I'm just me. But when it comes to police, and I try my best to be a good police officer, I try my best to be fair. But just thinking back after that job, when I got to hospital, the staff were like, okay, the staff were saying, well done with how you handled the situation, the hospital staff, because he could have died, right? Knowing that if I did taser this person, because he's tried to hit me in the head with a hammer, he could have died. And then a majority of the people who are going to see this video will be saying, that officer is a scumbag, he deserves to go to prison, he deserves to die. So I just see things from other people's perspectives. And that's what's going to change things and make the world a better place. Anyway, I've rambled on a little bit. Hopefully you guys liked the video. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Stay tuned for another one, another story. Peace.